Maybe it'll come up now. Okay. All right, let's be on the record in case number 2018 CR 1332, captioned State of Kansas versus Daniel Long. Would the parties announce their appearances, please?
May it please the court, Your Honor, the State of Kansas appears through Assistant District Attorney Mark Brinkworth via Zoom.
The defendant appears in person and by counsel Francis G. Martin, obviously by Zoom.
All right. And also present are Miss Johns from the probation department. We are here set down for a sentencing. Looks like back on November 20th, the parties appeared. The defendant changed his plea from one of not guilty to guilty to the sole count. I'm sorry, to the 2 counts, 1 possession of methamphetamine and 1 possession of drug paraphernalia. In exchange, the state dismissed the other counts. It was set for sentencing originally in January of this year. However, the defendant failed to appear at that sentencing hearing. He was picked up on that and sentencing was reset in March. However, due to the pandemic, courts were closed at that time. So this court arranged with all the parties to meet via Zoom video conference for sentencing today. And I'll ask you first, Mr. Long, you understand that you have a right to appear personally at your sentencing. Now, there's probably some debate about whether this is really in person or not. But my understanding in talking to Mr. Martin is that you want to go forward with this sentencing and that you would waive your personal physical appearance in court today. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, you're cutting in and out, Judge.
I had this problem the other night too. Do you need me to repeat anything, Amanda?
You said it's my understanding in talking to Mr. Martin that you want to go forward with this sentencing.
All right, and waive your personal appearance in court. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right, thank you. All right, as I said, this was originally set back in March and I received a pre-sentence investigation and I reviewed the same. I will find that the critical findings of that PSI are as follows. The primary conviction is one of possession of methamphetamine, which is a severity level 5 non-person drug felony. The defendant's criminal history score was found to be that of C. That would leave him with a presumed sentence in the border box with a presumed underlying range of 28, 30, or 32 months. If he has to do that time, he'll be eligible to up to 20% good time credit and subject to post-release supervision duration of 12 months. If he's granted probation today, it will be for a period of 12 months to community corrections. The second offense of conviction is that of possession of drug paraphernalia. That is a Class B non-person misdemeanor, which would carry a presumed sentence of up to 6 months in county jail and a fine up to $1,000. Again, there's no criminal history scoring for a misdemeanor offense. Mr. Brinkworth, I would ask you if you had an opportunity to review the PSI, do you have any additions, corrections, or challenges to those findings?
Judge, I have had a chance to look over the PSI and I have no additions or challenges.
Mr. Martin, same question.
Judge, I have reviewed the PSI with my client. As per the criminal history, Judge, he did plead to an additional misdemeanor in Platte County, resisting arrest, I believe it was early in April, the exact date. Other than that, criminal history is accurate.
All right. Mr. Long, what your lawyer is telling me is that you had an opportunity to go over this pre-sentence investigation with him. And most importantly, what I'm looking at is these convictions, what they are, and your criminal history worksheet, and that you agree with him that other than that subsequent arrest, that it accurately represents your criminal history. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Given that it is a border box, there weren't motions for departures necessary or filed. So I'll ask you, Mr. Brinkworth, comments upon sentencing.
Well, Judge, I just ask you follow the terms of the plea agreement that were entered into between the parties.
All right, thank you. Mr. Martin, comments?
Judge, Mr. Long has he's battled a significant.
I'm sorry, Frank, you were cutting in and out. Could you start?
Sure. Mr. Long has battled an addiction to methamphetamine for significantly for the last 3 years. He did, acquire. I mean, he's been convicted, or he has one case pending in Platte County right now, and all these have risen in the last basically 18-month period. He was sentenced on one of those in Johnson County, fleeing and eluding. He was given 30-day shock time in early October. He was released on November the 9th. Since that time, he has been on probation and is in full compliance with his probation. I have a letter from Amy Stanford, which I sent to Mark. I just received it, I think, on Friday or thereabouts. It is on the letterhead of the Department of Corrections, State of Missouri. And basically it says, this letter is submitted to confirm that Daniel R. Long, date of birth 9/08/77, is currently on Kansas probation for the felony offense of fleeing and eluding, 19 CR 87. As he currently resides in the state of Missouri, Missouri Probation and Parole is monitoring the supervision of his probation for the state of Kansas. As of the submission of this letter, which is dated May 1st, Long is in compliance with his probation to the best of the officer's knowledge. And then it's signed by Amy Stanford. He currently has one other case pending in Platte County. His lawyer has been trying to get into the drug program there. That's still uncertain whether they haven't made any decision on that. He actually has a court date scheduled for later this week, but I believe the Platte County courts will remain closed. They'll probably be continued for another month or so. At least that's what his lawyer has told him. Anyway, but they're trying to get him into the drug court program, and if not there, if he needs. I mean, at the time, very recently, he had an appointment to get a drug evaluation, but he was unable to attend that because of the shutdown. He will obviously get that drug evaluation, and he needs to comply with all the recommendations therein. I mean, if he actually gets admitted to drug court, he may not. I mean, they'll probably do an evaluation in pursuant to that program, but I mean, he's basically people at Platte or to tell him what he needs to do. In addition to his problems with the meth addiction, he's had a long-term medical problem with pulmonary edema. Basically, periodically gets swelling in his legs. He was recently hospitalized in January for 4 or 5 days. I forget which hospital it is, but I do actually have the hospital billing statements. He received a bill for approximately $50,000 for his 5-day. He has applied for disability. That's still pending. He previously worked as a painter, but he can't do that for long periods of time. He can only stay on his feet for a short period of time. He recently applied for a job at a hotel as a desk clerk, but it's uncertain basically what his ability to work is. I would ask the court to grant him probation as per the plea agreement, and then we'll have to see what, in terms of what he needs to do in terms of drug treatment I suppose, will be determined both by what happens with this Platte County case and if he's in the drug court. But if they don't get him into the drug court, obviously he would need to get that evaluation, apply recommendations.
Thank you. Mr. Long, now's your opportunity. Tell me anything you want me to know in mitigation of your sentence today.
Just that, yeah, I would like the opportunity to do probation. I've been in full compliance since my Johnson County case was disposed of. I attend AA meetings. I have a sponsor. I've been doing the best I can. I've been doing good as of late. So,
Well, I've got a question. Your lawyer mentioned that you picked up a resisting arrest charge in April in Platte County. One second. Yes, Mr. Brinkworth.
Judge, I was just going to say that part of the plea agreement was that he would obtain a drug evaluation prior to sentencing. That obviously hasn't happened because of the pandemic. So I was willing to agree to him getting it afterwards, but I think that should be made part of it, not dependent upon whether or not he's admitted to the drug court in Missouri. We still need that drug evaluation here so we can see what the recommendations are, and those can be made part of the probation if your honor does grant him probation.
I agree 100% with you, Mr. Brinkworth. So
Judge,
tell me about this arrest in April, Mr. Long. What happened?
Judge, may I respond?
Sure.
I said he entered a plea. Actually, the case was a continuing. When he was charged in Johnson County, it was fleeing and eluding. The chase, I think, arose in Platte and Johnson or vice versa. But he was charged in both jurisdictions, and he pled to fleeing and eluding in Johnson, and pled to in Platte County to resisting arrest, a misdemeanor. But
Okay.
It wasn't a new charge. It was from the same date as the Johnson County case.
Got it. All
Am
right.
I correct, Long, if I stated that correctly?
that's correct.
Okay. All right. I misunderstood you, Frank. I thought you said he got arrested in April on it. All right. Well, look, Mr. Long, I'm not going to keep you in suspense. I'm going to follow the recommendations here, but I'm certainly going to order a drug and alcohol evaluation. You need to get that done immediately, as soon as you can. And I think that kind of clears up in my mind a lot of that letter from the probation officer, because when I was under the impression that you were arrested in April, that she must not know about that to write that letter in May, but I think that's all cleared up. I need you to know this: when I grant you this probation here, you're going to have an underlying sentence of about, what was it, 30 months?
Yes, Judge.
So you're talking at least 2 years that you're going to owe me if you mess this up. All right. And it doesn't seem like, well, I take that back. Having that arrest cleared up eases my mind a little bit. But, you know, these are very close in time between the Johnson County, Platte County incident and what happened here. So, you know, you need to make sure that you walk it, because if you see me again, look, if you see me again because you're working your drug treatment and you have a relapse, but you get right back on it, you're not going to prison for that as long as you're working hard on it, okay? I'm not telling you that you have to be 100% perfect, but if you catch any more cases, if you drop out of sight, if you don't do your drug treatment, then you're going to give me no choice but to just put you away. You understand that? All right.
Yes, yes.
All right. Mr. Martin, you know any legal reason why I should not now pronounce sentence?
No, Your Honor.
All right. As to the primary count of conviction, one of possession of methamphetamine, severity level 5, non-person drug felony, the defendant will be sentenced to the Secretary of Corrections for a period of 30 months. If he has to do that time, he'll be eligible up to 20% good time credit and subject to post-release supervision duration of 12 months. His application for probation to community corrections is considered and granted for a period of 12 months. As to count 2 of conviction, that being possession of drug paraphernalia, Class B non-person misdemeanor, he'll be sentenced to the sheriff of Wyandotte County for a period of 6 months. That count is ordered to run concurrently with count 1. And again, he will be granted probation for a period of 12 months to community corrections in that case. Let's talk a little bit about costs and fees. So it sounds like you're unable to work at this time, Mr. Long, is that correct?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
How are you making ends meet these days?
I've got a really good support system. My mom and my dad. I do actually work part-time painting. I still do a little painting when I can, but it's been pretty tough.
All right. All right. What can you tell me in that Johnson County case? Do you have a ballpark number about what they assessed on you there?
Yeah, it was, I believe it was $759 total.
All right.
And I think I owe I think I've paid 300 so far.
All right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to waive the docket fees, but I'm going to impose the supervision fee. So I'm going to waive the $193. I'm going to impose the $120. Mr. Brinkworth, do you know were the drugs tested in this case?
They were not, Judge.
All right, there will be no drug fee. He's already been convicted of a felony here in Kansas, so his DNA should be in the database and shouldn't need that. I'm not going to issue a fine today. Mr. Martin, do you know what your fees are?
Judge, I'm sorry, I apologize. I neglected to figure mine, but it's probably $700 to $900 range.
right.
But I can give you an exact figure later today.
I'm going to impose the bids application fee of $100, but I'm going to waive any of Mr. Martin's fees as to the defendant. All right.
I
So
believe
I'm
that
giving
comes
you
to-
quite a break on this, Mr. Long. It looks like if I look at my calculations, somewhere around $1,300 that should be assessed, and you're going to get 220. So I need you to look. That's not the most important thing to me. You need to get your drug evaluation without delay. And you need to follow the recommendations thereof, okay? If you are in compliance with your probation, we'll work out a payment plan that's not gonna
I'm
break.
sorry, Judge. If you won't be compliant with your probation,
If you're gonna be compliant with your probation, we will work out a payment plan that's gonna work for you and not break you. And you should be fine, all right? What I want you to focus on is getting clean and sober and making a plan to remain that way, okay? Can you hear me, Mr. Long?
You cut out for just a minute. I apologize.
All right. I need you to get clean and sober, and I need you to work a plan that's going to keep you that way, okay? That's that drug and alcohol eval. Can you have that done within 30 days from today?
Yes.
All right. It is ordered that the defendant complete the drug and alcohol evaluation within 30 days and follow the recommendations thereof. Mr. Long, you have 14 days from today to appeal anything about this sentence you don't like. You also have the right to seek expungement after a period of time following successful completion of probation. As a convicted felon, it's prohibited for you to own or possess a firearm and certain kind of deadly cutting instruments like dirks, daggers, switchblades, basically any kind of knife that could be considered a deadly weapon. All right, folks, is there, I'll ask you first, Mr. Brinkworth, anything that I failed to cover today?
Judge, as far as credit for time served, it looks like at least I'm not able to access Blue Horse remotely, but I have 55 days for him as far as for time served, and so I'd ask that he be given credit for that towards these.
Mr. Martin, do you agree with that, about 55 days?
Yeah, Judge, we talked about that this morning, and that roughly, I think that covers it.
Okay. All right, then he'll be granted those jail time credit. All right, anything else that we need for our record today?
Judge,
Uh, Judge,
sorry.
just as far as the border box findings go, are we doing that as for the appropriate treatment program that exists, or
That's, I will find
non-prison
that there,
sanction?
I will find, given the fact that he's on probation, I know that the eval hasn't happened yet, but there is a program that exists that would assist the defendant in sobriety, and that a non-prison sanction encourages defender reformation better than a prison sanction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, did you have something as well?
Judge, I was just wondering, given the status of the current shutdown, what does he need to do? He need to report over to community corrections like today or tomorrow? I'm not sure what they're doing.
Here, and Ms. Johns, correct me if I'm wrong. He needs to call the main number 913-573-4180 today, and they will direct him how to go forward from that. Is that correct, Ms. Johns?
That's correct.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Anything else from anybody? Thank you all.
By
Good
state.
luck to you, Mr. Long. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.